I need women to learn how to make money because I think women don't know how to make money. I struggle with people who call themselves, women especially, who call themselves ambitious. Because every time I hear their ambitions, I'm like,
It's not big enough.
it's not big enough. When it comes to business ownership, we have less
Yeah.
women who own formal enterprises.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting paid a salary is not knowing how to make money. They're not the same thing. The ick I'm getting from financial literacy vendors is teaching women
How to
just
save and
about
budget.
saving. No, not budgeting. Budgeting is always out of the question most times. If you are truly like trying to like level up to the maybe not even the standard, but just you want equal pay and things like that. It's like equal skills too. That's what it means. We say things like, oh, discrimination, and we fight and push against like gender discrimination, the gender pay gap and all of that. But as
Those are
someone who
outcomes.
I agree. As someone who I consistently am working with women, there's a bigger issue.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the question?
Yeah, so like what do you think is the actual issue?
At the core of it, it's a knowledge thing. It's a knowledge thing.
Welcome. Before we dive in today, I want to share, give a little bit of context. I've curated something special that I'm calling In a Class of Her Own. Now,
Period.
if you're a woman, right, who you identify as, you consider yourself to be ambitious, you consider yourself to be audacious, I've created this segment for you specially, right? And it doesn't matter whether you are building a career or you're building a business. There's context for every type of woman, whether career or business, as long as you do identify as audacious and ambitious. And what I'm going to share, or what will be shared here today by me and my special guest, is not mainstream. So if you're looking for conventional wisdom, this is the wrong place to be. But if conventional wisdom has not been able to get you the results that you know that you need in your career and in your business, then you're exactly at the right place, right? And we're going to be sharing what I have tagged as unusual insights that have helped us, or that are helping us, insights that are helping us become the 1% of women who are advancing in global leadership. So yeah, we're gonna get into it. But again, before we do, I'm just in your face, so I'm gonna share a little bit, just to give you some context of who I am and like why I'm chatting. My name is Onyeka Nwobu. I'm a lot of things, but I think majorly I've become known as an entrepreneur and also an educator. I like to call myself a teacher because I feel like educator is like such a fancy word for teacher, but I am a teacher. And I've spent the last 11 years working with business leaders, strategic decision makers in Africa, and just like helping them grow and scale their businesses and also like their projects. And I've done this through business strategy, business development, also capacity development as well. In these 11 years as well, I've also spent time um, helping over 1,000 professionals, right? Develop their capacity, or really like training them in the disciplines of business and leadership. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm gonna let my guest speak a little bit to who she is and just share about herself. A lot of people know her to be my sister and a fashion icon. If am I really known for your fashion
Yeah.
sense?
Actually,
Yeah.
someone was like, "Oh, I really love your work," and I was like, "Oh, what do you love about it?" And she was like, "Your fashion. I love your pictures and everything." And then I told her, "So what's going to happen if I just said stop posting pictures about
Yeah.
my fashion?" And she was like, "We'll just have to evolve with you." And
Yeah.
but she was really like, "Ah, it's the fashion, everything."
Yeah.
I felt, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so a lot of people know you as that, and I think like you've really owned. I think they might have some context if they know a little bit about your background. I do, so it does check out. You've always been like the roots has been fashion,
Yeah, but one
literally.
thing people don't realize
Yeah.
is that is a business decision as
Yes,
well.
I agree.
You know,
Yeah.
and like you said, unusual insights, but that is a business decision because
Yeah.
it plays such a
A huge
huge
role.
role
I agree.
in, like the quality and
Yeah.
amount of people who are willing to
Yeah.
listen to anything you have to say. So it's
Yeah.
not just fashion
Mm-hmm.
for the vanity of it,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
it over time evolved into a business decision. I won't
Yeah.
lie and say that it was
It
always like
started.
a strategic thing, but
Yeah.
honing down on something that you see that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond being this fashion icon and sister to an icon as well, legendary. Do you want to tell us like outside of this because you're so brilliant like just in terms of business. I
I
feel
know.
like
Thank you.
I feel like people don't see that side of you. They don't get to see that side of you.
Yeah.
I've worked with you one-on-one multiple times, so I
Yeah.
understand that you're
The
actually a
best work
very,
experience of our life.
excuse me, I actually think that you are such a, I think you're so intense. I always tell people,
You tell them.
yes, I tell people that if they think I'm
eh,
intense and I'm a beast when it comes to work, like they've not worked with you. Like you're very like, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I think, okay, yes, I will share about what it is that I really do. I think in recent times, I have realized that, oh, actually, lots of people do not know
yeah,
what I do. And that has also been intentional. I think our philosophies are a little bit different
yeah,
when it comes to that. I I have really like detached my sense of value from my work, and not to say that you haven't, but I'm just like, when you set a standard, that's really kind of like
yeah,
all people want to use to box
yeah,
you. So even when I did like when the announcement about like my exit from
yeah,
my company came out, I still have people trying to understand. I'm like, even
yeah,
me, I don't understand. So, but
yeah,
yes, that is an intentional decision. I also maybe it's just a personality thing as well.
yeah,
I realized recently that I'm more of a I can't really multitask when it comes to doing work and showing work. Some people know how to, but my brain doesn't know how
yeah,
to. Like,
yeah,
it's just like even when I'm working,
yeah.
I can't focus on something with music on as much as I
That's
love music.
crazy.
I cannot. Like, I will be so angry. Like, why am I not thinking straight? Like, I
Yeah,
can't. So everywhere has to be silent. So maybe that also
yeah,
reflects. Like, I really just feel like I'm really like on a journey and showing people
yeah.
this. I'm not really comfortable showing that
We're
prematurely.
so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
We're
So
so like I'm
yeah.
the opposite of
Yeah.
you.
So there might be like one or two highlights.
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, we're happy to announce, but that's
yeah.
like once in like 2 years.
I'm the opposite of Ifeoma in every sense. Like I
Yeah.
show and I work at the same time. It's probably why I'm so tired most of the time. Like I,
Yeah.
I can't talk to people a lot. There's also the thing about like when you
Yeah. Using
mentioned
your time to sleep to show your work.
that's not true. I take rest very seriously.
Mm.
But there's what you said about business decision, right? And also I think we've we've had businesses, right, where we launched a business together. You also launched a business on your own and I did on my own, and very different approaches to things, right?
Mm.
It's like very radically different. And when you were saying like business decision, I also know how like you say like, oh, attaching, I do understand my brand is attached to my business very largely.
Yeah.
That is a business decision. Everything has its pros and its
Yeah.
cons, of course, but I think that so far as again we're going to talk about, and I think it should segue, it's a perfect segue for
I've not
where
told you
we're,
people who I am
oh
yet.
sorry
Yeah.
but
Thank
it
you.
will be a perfect segue for what I want us to get into
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
because it's really like the crux of the matter. But
Yeah.
go ahead and tell us
Yeah.
who you are, make it snappy.
But just to add, I will not make it snap because there's a lot of things, but I would make it as understandable
Snappy.
as it needs to be. Don't rush. Don't rush greatness, please. But yeah, just to add to that before I introduce myself, like the nature of what we do is also very largely
Yes,
different.
very
Even
different.
for me as well, there was also a
Yeah,
psychological part of it because
yeah,
like a lot of our growth at
yeah,
Sensac happened like the initial stages of growth happened because like people keyed into like my personal brand,
yes,
but when I saw that like to
it
scale, you
was
sort of need
being,
something
yeah,
different. But then psychologically, like people
yeah,
would attach my
yeah,
name to everything that went wrong. It
yeah,
was just a loss. Like, and I'm like,
yeah,
Jesus, like in fact, someone I
yeah,
remember people would call me out to be a thief, people would
yeah,
reach out to me
yeah.
personally. So I think that was why I subconsciously made the decision to
Just
sort of
step
detach.
back. Yeah,
And also like the organizational difference in
yeah,
the industries we work in. I
yes,
feel like
yes,
startups are very immersive. Like they just find a way
yes,
to like suck you into the day to day, especially when
yeah,
you're like playing a leadership role. So
yeah,
I do think that those things also contribute outside of
yeah.
personality. But to get to the more important part of what I do, um, first of all, I'm a business person, and
You're
I
a
like to,
businesswoman.
yes, like
Yeah,
I don't even like the term entrepreneur sometimes
yeah,
because it sounds very fancy. I mean,
yeah.
like business, like
Yes,
traditionally
like two
grounded.
times two equals,
Yes,
yeah,
like I can
yeah,
sell. That's I
yes,
can sell
yeah,
markets
yeah,
is a thing. And also interesting, not in the way that is very
yes,
like
yes,
crass or like
yes, crude,
obvious.
yeah,
I do know how to like do that, and that's something I enjoy doing. So I'm also like a builder at heart, like
yeah,
because even in business there are parts where you're going to need to specialize,
yeah,
in.
yeah,
We associate the term builder a lot with people who are technical, but
yeah,
I am non-technical, and what that means for me is that I basically know how to get my hands involved in anything involvable.
yeah,
Like think of marketing, strategy, customer support,
yeah,
customer experience, sometimes even technical things like design. Like
yeah,
I have like I might not sit down or prefer to spend my time doing that,
yeah,
but trust me, like you can't bullshit me if
yeah,
you're not getting like
yeah,
some of these things right.
right,
And then something I've been honing more in recent times is my writing. I
yeah,
can probably call myself a writer now. I'm not
yeah,
published yet, very soon in my name of Jesus, but I'm a writer, and I take that very personally because this was something that started with like just I it was something I discovered kind of late,
mm, mm,
in quotes. Nothing is ever late, but I discovered that I could do that really well last year. And so since last year, I've been running like a weekly newsletter that,
mm,
like people just absolutely love for sometimes reasons that I can't even see. I'm also a creative at heart, generally.
yeah,
And one philosophy I hold very dearly is that my creativity fits into business because they are almost like one and the same. A lot
mm-hmm.
of times when you hear that someone is a creative, you're probably thinking
Yeah,
musician or content
musician,
creator
yeah.
or something like that.
I
But you
don't
can't,
think that people understand what the word
yeah,
creative
like
means
to be
actually.
creative, to be a business person means you see a problem and you find a
It's
creative way to
problem
solve it.
solver. That's
Exactly.
really
So,
it. Yeah.
that is, like a huge part of me. And like you said, a fashion icon, like we are not taking that away. So I would say a fashion, I would say I'm a fashion influencer. I
Yeah.
don't make the conventional type of like fashion
Yeah.
content, but
Yeah.
I do know that there's a lot of influence that people,
Yeah.
get, or a lot of things people are influenced by,
So
essentially.
you are a lot of things, very, very many
Yeah,
things. And thank you for sharing with us.
not easy to be me.
um, and I want to come back
Hmm.
to where we were coming from. Um, Again, you spoke about, I think it's like how it's very funny how like for the longest time people have confused me as you as me.
Which is so unnecessary, by the way.
Like
And from today,
I
that
feel like
must end.
I feel like people are not,
After
they don't look
this
well.
video must be the end, the beginning of the end of that. Because
So they're looking at us, right? And they're seeing both of us, and I think like just not really understanding how different. And we're not going to get too into the personal stuff because we're here for a reason. But for the business part, it has shown like
yeah,
two
so
of us,
different,
we're
bro.
two different people. We don't want the same thing. Our approaches are very different. We did launch a business together that failed, like that.
And did it
I
really
don't think it
fail?
failed. I just think like it wasn't. I
We're
feel
just
like this,
young.
yes,
We
but
were
I feel like
young
we
and
didn't we didn't we
reckless.
didn't
We were
stick it
young
out.
and
We
reckless.
didn't stick it out. It could have done better, but we didn't stick it out, right? And we did not really understand a lot of things about business then. We're not,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it did
we're
not
not.
fail.
Yeah, I feel like it's
It
something.
just
Yeah,
it just was.
okay.
Some things fail, some things
Let's
succeed. It
agree
just
to disagree,
was,
but we've taken very, very parallel journeys.
Mm.
You ventured into the logistics space. I hail you.
Tech,
Tech,
but
but yeah,
logistics
yeah,
sector.
logistics tech. And I danced around, right? There was me starting as a branding agency, ending up as an education solution provider, ending up building schools. So now there's the leadership school, there's the business school. And I think, like, just in terms of running both businesses, the approaches have been different. You and your co-founder went on to raise venture capital. I've chosen a very hard path. You like saying that I like suffering, right? I've chosen a harder path, which is to use customer money.
I'm a bit iffy about you saying it's the harder part, but
No, it's not. So how do I put this now?
it wasn't a different part.
A lot of businesses would not survive. I've done 4 years. It's not to compare or contrast in any way. It's what is said in business. They say, oh, you can take this harder route. It's just a saying in business, not to say that that is the harder route. Doing business in any form is hard, whether you do it as your venture backed, because there's some pressure that comes with venture that I didn't want, and because also figuring out a market was very important to
Yeah.
me.
For me, I'm just saying, and again, like you said, not to compare, but
Yeah.
the way it's just like if you plant a bean seed, you're going to
Yeah.
get beans now.
What's
if you
that?
plant rice, you get
What's
rice.
that
So I'm
different?
saying how you structured it from the beginning or how it came about. Because I actually do remember when you were doing the branding thing, and this
Yeah.
one of these solutions came from a place of frustration
Yeah.
with people not
Yes.
understanding
Yeah.
your value proposition.
Yeah.
I do remember that clearly.
Yeah.
And it was just such like
An
a
organic.
smooth
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
pivot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, if you set up like your business to be a product-based business
Yeah.
or service-based business
Yeah.
or whatever it is, like
Yeah.
the market sort of has ways, the
Influence,
best
yeah.
ways for
Yeah.
those businesses to get funding.
yeah.
That's why
I
I said,
agree.
because there are people who are doing
I
bootstrap
agree.
logistics businesses that have never
Yeah.
raised, like a day in their life. So
And I think I'm just curious from your perspective, what you think the critical, like, reason behind, like, Fruit Girls shutting down. I got asked yesterday.
I just avoid the question. Like,
No, I just say, like, I'm just like, Fruit Girls is there because at the back of my head,
people just think it's still there.
yeah, like that we built something. That's the point. We built a human being, because, like, when you think about
True.
brand, we built a person that lives in people's heads and they can't forget it. And that's
I feel
really
like
our
I feel like
origin
it's because
story.
we never. So it just goes to show that we didn't really know a lot about
Yeah,
business
we
then.
never said we're shutting
Because we
down.
exactly it was just like, yeah, we'll come back to this. Like we always sort of like
In my head,
knew.
I know that Fruit Girls is still very valuable. It's a valuable asset. It's not going anywhere. It's our origin story. It doesn't go anywhere. Actually,
Yeah.
we actually don't. Shut
and there
it
were so
down
many
or
other
anything.
things. There were like so many other things, and that's why I said, yeah, like in my heart, like I'm avoidant.
Yes.
It has just not shut down. Like I feel like, and also there's a thing where like when you're building someone with literally like when you're building something with someone who's blood, I don't
Yeah.
think like
Yeah,
like we can
yeah.
start another brand now and it can be a continuation of
that.
what
That's
we
always
did then.
been like my thoughts,
Yeah,
even
I
for
think
why
so.
we're here.
Yeah.
You see you see the joining, like,
Yeah.
you see how it sort of
Yeah.
relates.
Even this thing that we're doing now
Yes.
is something that we are talking about. Remember, like girls like
Yes,
us,
so like it's
exactly, so-
manifesting in very different.
I feel like it just
there's
is the right path. I think
expressions.
we're on the right path.
I feel like that was prophetic.
Yes, like we're on the right path.
Yeah, I feel like it
that
was. But you
yeah.
didn't answer my question.
What's the question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
good. what do you think? Like, was the critical difference between, like, Fruit Girls, like, let's just say, to like temporarily shutting down, and our successful individual businesses, because we did you went on to do Sensac and I went on to do what was DVD that spiraled into DBD SIT Airline Trinity of a business. Yeah. So what do you think, like, what do you think made the difference? Why do you think that had to shut down temporarily and we're still?
I think the fundamental difference is one, the mindset changed, or we just learned more. Like we built that knowledge. We were intentional about it, and I think that's something that people need to be intentional about, where they or how they seek knowledge. I also think that obviously like structure and just vision. I think that structured vision for where you want to go,
Yeah.
even if you don't know how yet, you just
Yeah.
know where you want it to lead you,
Yeah.
then you're able to make more like better informed decisions. And then last thing I would say is like money, you know, I do think that a lot of times we can glorify
Vision,
unnecessary, yeah, like just
purpose.
prospects, you know, every time something is in the future. But like if you really look back at it
Mm-hmm.
and everything, we're at the point where like, you know, we did
Yeah.
need money.
I remember
Like,
you told me it's like I remember like that it wasn't like a sit down, like again, we didn't know a lot about business, but
yeah,
like I remember you saying like this thing, like I had a hard time even computing that
yeah,
you were transitioning
yeah,
into, like, and then you're like, it's real, I'm getting paid, stuff like that. Like
yeah.
you said those things and I just like, oh, where
Yeah,
did
like
I
we're
find
just
my
moving
life
to a new
now?
house. Like
Yeah.
then, like
Yeah.
me, that was my first time like paying big girl rent. Like, you know, so we
Yeah.
needed like
It
a
was a
stable
reality
source
check.
of income,
Yeah.
and that was why I said like in my head it didn't shut down because people do multiple things at a time.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
when you're starting off on a new path,
Yeah.
you want that integrity of giving it your all, and then
Yeah.
when it stabilizes, you're able to now add other things.
Yeah.
So that was my thinking, right? But I think those three things:
Yeah.
structured, being intentional about getting
Yeah.
knowledge, having better structure,
Yeah.
vision, and then finances. Like you can't do a lot without money
Yeah.
in life generally.
Yeah.
So just having, like,
I think
yeah,
like yeah, I feel you on that. I would say I never really Freelance was like it was passion. It was very like
yeah,
passion led, and it was very like it caught a wave, like even like globally caught a wave, and I was just like, but then it made me think about how when you say this thing about like purpose, passion, it made me think about how like purpose was not paying the bills or anything,
it's
like
not like it wasn't. It could have, and
yeah,
eventually
but
would
like
have,
then it
but we just
wasn't.
didn't
We
have the
didn't have.
knowledge.
I want to say we didn't have certain skills. Yeah,
Exactly.
we didn't
Yeah.
have certain skills
To
that could
nurture it.
move the
Yes.
business forward.
Yeah.
And so that's when, like you start looking at prospect versus reality. Like, how many years would this thing
And
actually
it just goes to show that, like,
materialize?
even if you're starting something or leading something, you
Yeah,
still need certain skills.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
being a visionary alone is not
yeah,
enough. Like, you still need your vision to be able to translate into knowing
yeah,
certain things. So, like,
yeah,
leadership doesn't mean that you're now a know it all, do it all.
yeah,
You still need to be taught
yeah,
by someone who is
yeah.
miles ahead. You know.
I say that I think just to summarize this, right? Me, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Yes, I agree with the structure and everything, but it's like we had and still have a dream. Transforming that dream into like value and being able to make money from it was what we had not hacked then.
Yeah.
And that was the skill that I think like even if our fuel was passion, purpose, would have burnt, would have crashed at the end of the day. Which I think like what happened was just you caught something else early, and I had to catch something else, right? Which leads me to the actual like next point is I remember going for an International Women's Day event and they're just asking like questions like what are some of the frustrations. I was like, I need women to learn how to make money because I think women don't know how to make money.
Yeah.
And not to heap blame on anybody, like socialization, culture, and all of that. But we've gotten to a point where we actually don't. I want to make this clear. Getting paid a salary is not knowing how to make money. That they're not the same thing, right? Getting paid a salary is not the same thing because you have to ask yourself the question that I think a lot of employees, male and female, don't ask is where does money come from? How do I get paid? Where like who's
Yeah, like
yeah,
where is
where
that
is the
money coming
source?
from?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's the question that is never asked. And you just take a salary. So you're not making money, which is why a lot of employees are liabilities rather than being assets, right? Because you're just an operational cost at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think and there are actually like facts around this, right? The World Economic Forum, its gender gap report shows that women in sub-Saharan Africa earn on an average 33% less than men. And in Nigeria specifically, PwC reports that women earn approximately 59 naira for every 100 naira earned by men,
Crazy
right?
work.
So it's not just even about salary. When it comes to business ownership, we have less
Yeah.
women who own formal enterprises,
Yeah, for sure.
right? and it speaks to,
Women own a
yes,
lot of SMEs,
SMEs,
but when it comes to
yes,
like structured
structured
yeah,
businesses,
there are
like
more men there.
they are more
Even
men.
little things like, and I just want to add this random thing. Like, have you
Yeah.
noticed how even skills like cooking,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Somehow we're told that that's the woman's job, but
Yes.
the top chefs in the world,
Amen.
when it comes to like translating that
Yes.
skill
Yes.
of cooking
Into,
into a money making
yes.
venture,
Yes.
you have
Men,
men at the
it's
top.
men.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So, and it really fascinates me, but I think that there's a deeper issue. There's something, and I want to just know what you think it is. There's, when we talk about, like, we say things like, oh, discrimination, and we fight and push against like gender discrimination, the gender pay gap, and all of
yeah,
that. But as
those are
someone who
outcomes. Yeah.
has, I agree. As someone who I constantly, consistently am working with women, there's a bigger issue.
Yeah,
I
that
try,
is
yeah.
very sensitive to
There's,
talk
yes,
about
there's a bigger
sometimes.
issue, and I really feel like anytime I try to put pressure of like sales on women, they back out instantly.
Okay, so what's the question?
Yeah. So, like, what do you think is the actual issue?
Personally,
Yeah.
outside of this ambitious thing,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to not work as a woman and just, but obviously that's wishful thinking, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we joke about this, like, oh, trophy wife, all
Yeah.
of that. And honestly, I can't lie to you. Sometimes, like, that's my dream. But I think at the core of it, it's a knowledge thing. It's a mindset thing. There's so many things we've been socialized to believe. So think about this: women have been for the longest time socialized to be custodians and managers of money. But managing something
It's
is
not
not
the
is different from
same.
bringing. And men have been socialized to
Yeah.
be
The
the providers, the
bringers.
bringers, the ones that go and
Yeah.
source it. So you
Yeah.
can't really like.
Yeah.
I won't say, and it works because ideally, like it works in certain private, personal, family settings, maybe, right? But on a larger scale, especially in a time where women are trying to do more and be
Yeah.
more, it means that there
Yeah.
has to be more
More.
responsibility.
Yes.
What we don't really talk about is the sheer responsibility it is that men have had
Yes.
to like shoulder,
Yes.
even in very personal settings for a long
Yeah.
time. And obviously that translates to like more like more serious or like important issues in
Yeah.
the workplace.
Yeah.
Women, I would say, like, we're newer to work
Yeah.
than men are. We're newer to like corporate work.
Yeah.
Even when we're growing up, you see mothers who own businesses,
Yeah.
they're selling food by the roadside,
Yeah.
and then dads will go to the office.
Yeah.
So I would say is that knowledge gap,
Yeah,
and
I
we're
agree.
trying to catch up to a system that
I
has
agree.
been
I
in motion for a
agree.
long time. And so what do you do to close the gap? You learn, like,
Yeah.
and takes me back to one of
Yeah.
my first points, like, you make conscious effort to know what
Yeah.
have the men done
Yeah.
that works, like,
Yeah.
how have they done it in ways that works, and not in a way that you try to become a man,
A man,
but in a way that
yeah.
you try to then translate it to fit
Yeah.
the innate like
Yeah.
gifts
I
that
agree.
you have as a woman.
I agree.
So if you know that something that helps men is communication,
Yes.
you start to ask yourself, okay, as a woman and as a specific woman, as Ifeoma, what does good communication look like for me? If you learn, if they tell you that, okay, men is relationship building,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being diplomacy that helps
Diplomacy.
them, you learn,
Yeah.
okay, what does diplomacy look like in a
Yeah.
workplace? I think that there are a lot of concepts that are more neutral than they're gender neutral concepts.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the first thing would be trying to think that only one gender can,
Yeah.
like, apply
Learn
those
that, yeah.
concepts. So
I
that's what I
agree.
think it is.
I agree. I think it is
Oh, that was so
a
good.
I think it is a knowledge gap, and then I think we're not paying attention to how the world is evolving. I generally struggle with the concept of this whole like push for equality, and it's like,
Oh, let's not
yeah,
go there.
yeah.
Is
I,
that
I
what-
don't want to delve into that because it is a deep dark hole. That's what it's become. But I struggle with
This is
that
a podcast
concept.
for that.
I struggle with that concept because if you are truly like trying to like level up to the maybe not even the standard, but just you want equal pay and things like that. It's like equal skills too. That's what it means.
Equal responsibility.
Equal responsibility, equal knowledge. You have to know what they
Yeah.
know. So I feel like there's that gap in knowledge and skill sets. It's so wide that, like, it's causing for, and we can't keep peddling this whole story of like boss babe, but you don't know how to make money is not boss babe, right? I sincerely think that like it's not to shade anybody, but it's like we need to start getting real. Like you want to be. I struggle with people who call themselves women, especially who call themselves ambitious, because every time I hear their ambitions, I'm like,
It's not big
it's
enough.
not big enough. Yeah. So speaking of skills gap, right?
Skills gap.
This gap in skills. I know many women entrepreneurs, women in business who I speak to. I see their work is really amazing, but this thing that we say about not being able to translate purpose into like value
Yeah.
and generate like consistent income or revenue for their businesses seems to be a running theme, right? And then for the women in career, you were going to say something very annoying, but keep it. For the women in career, one thing I've heard a lot is just hitting a ceiling when it comes to like salary, being able to earn, right? And I think everything that we spoke about boils down to knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And I think one thing that is missing contextually, because we spoke about the issue that we had and why we couldn't continue through deals, and it's just a running theme for everybody. Their context may be different, but it's boiling down to the skill of money, right? Like making money, financial capacity is what we term it.
Think up.
Which is why we have created a series of exclusive trainings, and we're going to be hosting. Ifeoma and I are going to be hosting. We're going
Period.
to be hosting.
I will be there.
We'll be hosting a series of exclusive trainings.
I will be there.
And Ifeoma will be leading. I'll also.
I will be
leading.
there and be leading.
And we're going to be teaching women in business and career how to build financial capacity for leadership.
So basically, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not enough for you to have vision, purpose. It's also not enough for you to have basic competencies.
To get this money, baby.
Operational competencies in the workplace. If you are like in career, that's not enough. We want to teach you how do you actually like make money? How does money work in the context of how do I make money as a woman in career, and then how do I make money? How do I
Do you know when I knew that this thing is serious?
well,
Girl, have you seen the price of wigs? I had to get my money off.
yeah,
Even braids.
yeah, even like
So you can't even
anything
be, like,
breathing now like it's so expensive.
Expensive, so
Yeah.
money has to go up.
I think it's very important for the women in career to understand how to wield the organization's financial levers. And for the women in business, it's very important for them to be able to flip
Yeah.
like their purpose, their vision into cash. Like cash is the lifeblood of a human being.
Yeah.
Talk more of like a business, right?
Yeah.
And a business means multiple people. It means you're responsible for families. It means you're responsible for yourself. So
Yeah.
we're going to be hosting this training. The trainings are going to happen on the 7th and 14th of June 2025. I was going to say 2024.
God forbid.
We
are not in,
we
are not in the past.
we're going to be hosting these trainings June 2025 on the 7th and on the 14th.
Yeah.
And so if you know that this is a skill, this is a gap in your skill set, if you're a woman in career or business and it's a gap in your skill set, you definitely want to invest in this
Of which
training.
it is, by the way.
Thank you very much for that.
Just in case you were down.
You want to invest in these trainings. They're going to be very worth it. We're going to be pouring out from our collectively over 16 years of experience.
I'm going to unpack.
No, but literally, we're going to download everything that we've learned from over 16 years building careers and building businesses. We're going to unpack that, and we're going to be teaching you, right? And you're going to be learning from people who have, in my case, right? I know that we didn't want to brag at first, right?
Yeah.
I've personally generated over 65 million in customer revenue for my businesses, right?
It's well, one day, one day.
65 million naira, just so that we're clear. And for Ifeoma has been able to raise over 350,000 USD in venture capital.
God
So
will help
we
us.
do know
Sha.
what we are talking about, and we look forward to having you join the trainings. And I hope that you make the investment
But
in
these are still
yourselves.
my humble beginnings. Let's just make
Let's
it
be clear.
very,
This
very
is this is
clear.
baseline.
Like,
It's baseline, but
that's why
we
I don't
just
talk
want to give
about
you
it.
hack.
Yeah,
We want to give you
exactly.
hack. Okay, so I think something else I'm so like I feel like this thing burning in my soul because let's give some context to Fug Girls. Fug Girls was part fashion resale, part
Tired talking about
financial
this.
literacy. You can't be tired
I'm
because it's
avoidant.
so prophetic. And we're teaching women. I remember the angle we're coming from. It was so special because I also feel like that particular angle of financial literacy that we focused on was a game changer.
Yeah,
For Fruit Girls, we focused on budgeting.
fair enough.
We,
Fair enough.
we focused on budgeting because we had to teach these women how to budget for like drops and everything.
Yeah,
So like we focus on budgeting, which is something that a lot of people in this part of the world don't actually like talk about it.
yeah,
They don't talk about it. So I think for me, the ick I'm getting from financial literacy vendors is teaching women
how to
just
save and
about
budget.
saving. No, no, not budgeting. Budgeting is always out of the question most times.
Mm.
I think the only people that have done well are our guys in blue. They've taught us how to, like budget, make budgets. But outside of that, I see a lot of save, invest, and we're talking about crypto, invest in USD
Stocks.
stocks. We're talking about saving, they're talking about bonds and treasury bills. And I think this speaks to how we always sort of have an illusion that we're in a very developed country society.
True. And
Yeah.
and we always talk about start small, but the thing
Yeah.
is,
It doesn't
with
work like
where
that.
we are
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
the barrier to
Yeah.
entry for small keeps increasing. Before you
Increasing.
blink, exchange rate has
Blinked
increased
times 10.
again.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like we're trying to play
Yeah.
catch up all the
Yeah, all the
time.
time. So I think there needs to be that. I'm not saying don't teach savings. I'm not saying don't teach investment. Those are very, very important. Money management.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah,
to do
that's
with
money
management,
management, not
right?
money
Not
making.
money making. They're not the same thing. And so where are the people who are actually like teaching women how to, I'm not talking about the gurus, make money in 6 days. Because that's not how money is made.
Yeah.
That's not how money is made. I'm talking about people who are teaching people how to build legacy, sustainable businesses, sustainable
Yeah.
careers. And it's a big ick. So I'm wondering what you think about that. But like for me,
What
it's
I
just
think.
yes. What
You know,
you like? What are your unique thoughts around
yeah.
it? Yeah.
No, I definitely think I agree. I think that different things would work for different audiences, but I know you spend so much time doing research on these things,
Yeah.
and so you know who like the majority of people are. Even when
Yeah.
we think when we bring it down to
Yeah.
younger women, professionals,
Yeah.
people just graduating from school,
Yeah.
you know, the game is so different from what it was like a few years ago, and now it's actually it's easier to make money, interestingly, in terms
Yes.
of the opportunities that exist,
Yes.
but it's also harder at the
Yeah.
same time.
I
I really because of
competition
the
is fierce.
economy and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
everybody now having that same
Yeah.
access, right? So I definitely think that there needs to be things that you do intentionally to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
And lots of times we talk about personal branding, we talk about community building, but those are not necessarily, and I believe in those things,
Yeah.
right? Like, but when you start to talk about deep work, even when you say personal branding, it will get to a point where building a personal brand becomes a business.
Yes.
And if you don't treat it as such,
Yes.
you
Yes.
can have many followers
Yes.
but not
No
have
monetization.
any money. So
Yeah.
I think that, like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, knowledge building, like
Yeah.
just being so intentional about like developing that capacity to think strategically about how to make money is so important. And this is where like the grapple between creative versus business, this is where it
Yeah.
exists. Because it's
Yeah.
like, why are you separating those two things? Yes, you can
Yes.
have a gift of creativity,
Yeah.
but do you have the
Business
knowledge of
acumen.
building
Yeah.
a business out of it? For example, I know now that I can write.
Yeah.
Okay, clap for
Yes.
me. But
Yes.
if
Yeah.
I wanted to make money out of that,
You
I
can.
know what I
Yes.
need to do
Yes.
to
Yes.
make money from writing. And then it becomes the business of writing.
Of writing.
So
Yeah.
back to the main thing. Yeah, like you need to know it's not enough to get fruits from a tree. You need to know how to plant the tree. And
The tree.
knowing how to plant the tree means that you have to have foundational knowledge of
Yeah.
agriculture, like what makes, you know, a tree
Grow.
grow at what time
What
of the
sort of
year.
tree?
Yes, like what sort of
Yeah.
tree? How do you nurture it?
Yeah.
It's different from being a consumer,
Yes.
where okay, yeah, now
Yes.
this tree, someone has built
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
now I'm eating the
Yeah.
fruits
The
from that
fruits from
tree.
it.
But
Yeah.
I do at the same time think that this is something that only very few people will be willing to do, and that's why I
Yeah.
think that anybody who's, for example,
Yeah.
like signs up for the training is
Yeah.
not really,
Yeah. Not
it's
the
not really
regular.
supposed to be like
Yeah.
a, oh, for
Yeah. For
everyone, because the
everyone.
moment you make it for everyone, it's now like
Yeah.
we're back to
Yeah.
square one again, where
Yeah.
everybody knows,
Yeah.
something. So I do
Something.
think,
I agree.
yeah,
And I've been told that the women in the community, if you're not a part of the Authentic Leadership Circle by the Authentic Leadership Institute, then yeah, you're definitely missing out. I do agree. It's not the quality of women that have come in for our trainings and want to learn the types of things that we teach
yeah.
are very, very radically
You just have
different.
to have a different kind of
Yeah.
motivation. Trust me, like
Yes.
if your motivation
Yes.
is to live by every day,
Every day.
I can
Yes.
do,
It's
I
not
can
for
eat
you.
food without working. To
Yes.
be honest,
Yes.
in the way
Yeah.
today's society is
It's
designed
set
for me
up.
as a fine babe,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. And so I think like just in what we're discussing, it's like I'm very, and I think we're both living, breathing proof of just being able to, we didn't really touch on this, but like I think there's that illusion like that we're a bit out of reach what we've built for ourselves. It's a
really,
bit, yeah, and that's because like we don't talk about like, and who wants to come and doing sub
I
story,
don't want you to
right?
pity me, bro. Like I want you to
Exactly,
give fund
exactly.
me,
But I
fund my
think
business,
that
give me
people
money.
do actually, especially women, because women respond when they see women like them and they understand like your history. So I think it's important to also throw light on that. Like we didn't come from what is like grand privilege. Like yeah, we did have basic foundational education.
So I saw something the other day.
Huh.
I was filling a form. I was filling a form. I was helping someone
Oh
fill a
no.
form. No, for real, like for a
Yeah.
survey, and they were trying to understand Lagos, Nigeria,
Yeah.
globalization, something like that. And they were like, "Oh, which one did you grow? Like, what
Yeah.
was your basically class?" And then there was poor, which was like,
Yes.
poor,
Yeah.
nothing. Then there was lower middle
Lower
class,
middle.
just
Yeah.
had business. Then there was
Yeah.
upper middle class, and they
What'd you
indicated like
pick?
lower middle class now. We're lower
Eh.
middle class. We were never homeless. Like
Yes, I
we were
agree.
we never
I
lived under the
agree. I
bridge, to be
agree.
fair. Like so we don't have that
Yeah.
experience where we never had
Yes, I
like,
get that.
so but
But like for me,
we just
it
had food and
equates.
house.
Yeah, it equates, and for me, like that was the one sign, even as a young woman,
Yeah.
that we were poor. That for
Yeah.
me, that was the one sign. It's like where it was, there was so much
Oh my god, I hate that
ruckus.
word, poor.
Yeah, like there was so much ruckus around. Like, oh, have you eaten? It was just like food.
Yeah, it was just always
Like
food. We just always talked
yeah,
about food.
food,
And it was
food.
because like there was a time that was kind of threatening, like
Yes,
legit, like we might not see food to eat
yes, to
tomorrow,
eat
but
tomorrow. Yeah,
it always kind of
so
came.
yeah, I think that when we give this context, is for people to also know like, hey, it's actually possible for you if you are willing to do the work and you're willing to learn.
Yeah.
And which really, I think we're gonna pause here for today.
I'm just going to say like,
And
and I'm just
I,
going to add, sorry,
yeah,
before we pause that, like, and it's also like self-aggrandize and like say
yeah,
we've made it, but it's just to show
yeah,
how much of a mindset shift has
yes,
happened,
has
and
happened.
that's where it starts from.
Yeah.
It start like the motivational speakers were right, guys. It is a thing of the mind.
Yeah,
like, and
I
maybe
agree.
those cliches are cliche because they're
Yeah,
true.
true. Yeah. And so coming back to the point, it's like we know, it's a critical gap, like making money, being able to build financial earning capacity is a huge gap. If you're watching this, you probably don't need someone to come and poke you. If you
You
know
have
that it's,
data,
yeah,
phone,
like
yeah.
you know that a lot of women, like I love our community because they're so open. They admit when they need help, like we need to be trained on XYZ. So
Cute.
back to back to it. 7th, 14th, Ifeoma and I,
June
yes,
2025.
June 2025.
Be there.
Ifeoma and I are going to be leading a training on how to build financial capacity for leadership. And we've designed it specifically to address or to help women in business and career. So if you're a woman in business, you're a woman in career, it's perfect for you. If you want to turn your competence to currency as a woman in career, that's where you need to be. If you also want to be able to flip vision into value, that is paid for and that can generate consistent revenue and income, then yes, you should also be or invest in this training.
It's a training with
It's,
heart
yes,
because we won't be
yes,
speaking out of
yes, yes.
idealistic
This is pure,
thoughts.
like, we've been there both in the corporate side. I spent years building my career in corporate. We've both ventured into entrepreneurship, I would say, like, very, very successfully. And yeah, we're going to be hosting this training. It's going to be virtual. I know that there are people who are going to have this question. It's a virtual training, so anywhere in the world. We have women from the United Kingdom, we have women from Rwanda, Tanzania, we have women from France, we have women from all over the world, Germany, join us, Nigeria, Ghana. We have them join our trainings. And so we're inviting you to make the investment in yourself so that you're better off. It's not enough to just survive. Yeah,
So you can buy fine wig, anything else. That's my goal now.
so you can invest, so you can actually have money to invest
And buy
and
wig.
save, right?
buy wig.
Well, wig is it is a form of investment, to be honest. It's a hack.
What is it
Yeah, it's a hack.
Maybe like land
Yeah,
now.
yeah. And I should mention that this training is in partnership with the Authentic Leadership Institute, which is also known as ALI
Ally.
Global.
Your ally
If let me
for
say
growth.
the let me
Your ally for growth. Come on now.
I love the tagline, but let them get it. It's ALI Global.
Ally global.
ALI Global.
Ally for your growth.
Ifeoma, people pick up the brand now and be calling it something else. It's ALI Global, and that's short for the Authentic Leadership Institute.
Ally.
And we'll be partnering with the Authentic Leadership Institute to bring you this training.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not ally, it's ALI. Just so that
Ally for
we're not going to argue about this.
growth.
Okay, so yes, it's been very lovely, like,
Whatever, girl.
chatting to you. It's very lovely chatting to you, and I do. I'm very, like, I'm very I'm very excited. We've not worked together anywhere, and I know that you've been avoiding me, but I'm very excited for this. And yeah, see you guys
On
on
the
the
7th
7th and the 14th of June. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you. Bye bye.